something extraordinary is happening in Germany. This is Hamburg. Islamists by the hundreds calling for the rule of a caliphate. They thought Germany, soft, guilt-ridden, allergic to confrontation since 1945, would do what it always does, apologize and appease. Instead, Germany did something no one, most especially these Islamists, ever expected. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else, so make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It was a horrific scene. On July 25th, a van rammed into crowds near Berlin's Christopher Street Day Pride celebrations in Tiergarten, killing one woman and injuring 29 others. The attacker also stabbed victims with a bladed weapon before fleeing on foot. After a roughly 24-hour manhunt, special police units cornered the suspect in an allotment garden complex in Berlin's Spandau district, where he charged officers with what's reported to be a stabbing weapon and was shot dead. German authorities identified the suspect as Abdul Balo, a 21-year-old German-born citizen of Lebanese descent. The case has since been officially classified by the German Interior Ministry as an Islamist terrorist attack. The case, however, is raising serious red flags because, as it turns out, Bilal was already deeply known to German authorities. Berlin prosecutors confirmed he had developed a desire in late 2025 to join the Islamic State and their armed fight. He was arrested in Lebanon in July of that year, convicted there of incitement to religious conflict, and he served 3 months before returning to Germany later in November, where he was immediately detained on a German arrest warrant. In May of this year, a Berlin court convicted him of preparing a serious act of violence endangering the state, plus violating an association ban law, sentencing him to just 1 year and 10 months, a suspended juvenile sentence. He had a prior 2022 conviction for assault and extortion as well. Remarkably, police had even searched his residence literally just weeks ago, back in the first week of July, over a weapons law suspicion, but they only found a toy gun and closed the case. Needless to say, these revelations have enraged the German public, and now Germany's government is taking action. Germany's going way beyond simply closing the juvenile loopholes that let Bilal slip through. Germany's Federal Government of Justice recently lowered the legal threshold for imposing electronic ankle monitors in terrorism cases. Authorities no longer need evidence of a specific imminent planned attack. A documented pattern of ideological radicalization and ties to violent extremist networks is now enough to justify surveillance. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has also ordered a review of Germany's border surveillance jurisdiction laws, pointedly noting that if his own phone can be tracked from anywhere in the world, there is absolutely no excuse for the state failing to locate a known extremist under active observation. But more than that, the tightening of restrictions are actually part of a 2-year effort, an unprecedented campaign on the part of Berlin to ban and dissolve Islamist organizations, the most notable example being the Islamic Center of Hamburg in 2024. The Islamic Center was founded by Iranian immigrants going back to 1953, and for decades it looked like exactly what it claimed to be, simply a house of worship. But German intelligence saw something else. Since the 1990s, the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution had assessed it as the direct representative of Iran's supreme leader on German soil, spreading the ideology of the Islamic Revolution and supporting Hezbollah, which Germany had already banned outright in 2020. When U.S. forces killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani back in January 2020, around 600 people gathered at that center to mourn him as a martyr in the middle of a German city. That was the moment the file started closing. On July 24th, 2024, the Interior Ministry pulled the trigger. Roughly 670 police officers hit 53 properties across 8 federal states in a single coordinated sweep. 4 Shiite mosques were shut down, assets frozen, branches in Frankfurt, Munich, and Berlin dissolved in the same stroke. All of this came under Germany's so-called militant democracy doctrine that lets the state erase an organization's legal existence literally overnight. It's a very, very powerful law. It's technically known as Article 9 of Germany's Basic Law combined with the country's Association Act. And together they create what German legal scholars call this militant democracy. It's often associated with anti-Nazi laws, but it's far more broad than that. It's a general purpose doctrine built around World War II so that democracy would never again be talked, voted, or organized out of existence by any movement, neo-Nazi, neo-communist, or in this case, militant Islamist. And it's been working. Officials have shut down mosques functioning as foreign influence outposts. The laws choked off money in the meeting halls. And yet the problem with Abdul Balo is that he wasn't part of a mosque network the state could raid. He was a known individual. He was already flagged, already convicted, already under camera surveillance for sure. And yet the system still let him drive a van into a pride crowd. That's the gap this attack has exposed. And it's a different gap than the one Germany spent the last 2 years trying to close. You can dissolve an organization with a signature, for sure, but you can't dissolve a radicalized individual's freedom of movement with the same speed, not without changing the actual laws governing sentencing, monitoring, and detention. And that's exactly what Germany's government is now being forced to do. But many are asking, why now? Why did it take so long? Why is Germany's otherwise lax, apologetic government suddenly cracking down on Islamism? There's a reason, and it has 3 letters: AFD. One of the most important things you can do for your home and your family is be prepared before an emergency ever happens. Because when something goes wrong, when a fire starts, the last thing you want to be doing is scrambling for some complicated solution. In moments like that, you need something simple, fast, practical, and ready to go. And that's exactly what I want to tell you about the Sierra Madre fire blanket. Now, what I love about this is just how easy it is to use. You simply pull it out using these straps, and then you unfold it. I'm not going to unfold everything. It's pretty big, but you get it. And then you place it over the flames. And that's it. No complicated instructions, no special training, right? No pressure gauges to check, no chemicals, no maintenance, and no complicated operation. It's lightweight, it's easy to carry, and it's compact enough to keep close by without taking up a bunch of space. And that makes it especially valuable in the kitchen, where so many household fires start. But it's not just for your kitchen. You can keep one in your car, your RV, your camper, your boat, in your emergency kit next to the barbecue. In other words, it's one of those simple tools that gives you real peace of mind wherever life takes you. The Sierra Madre fire blanket is made from 100% fiberglass fabric, and it works by cutting off oxygen to the flames. No charging, no batteries, no waiting. It's always ready whenever you need it. So if you're looking for a simple, practical way to add another layer of protection for your home, your vehicle, and the people you love most, check out the Sierra Madre fire blanket today. It's a small thing to keep on hand, but in the moment you need it, it can make all the difference. Click the link below to get yours today. As we speak, Germany's Patriot Party, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, led by the great Alice Weidel, is absolutely exploding in the polls. This week, for the very first time, they've topped a Berlin state election poll as the single most popular party in the region. Now, why this poll is so huge is because Berlin, remember, which is also a state, the state of Berlin has been governed by leftist parties almost continuously since 2001. It's one of the most liberal regions in Germany. And yet Germany's own version of MAGA, their Patriot Party, is topping all other parties. And it mirrors what's happening nationally. Virtually every single national poll is now showing the AfD as the number one party in the country. The most recent showing that AfD is now leading the center-right CDU by a near 10-point margin. This was absolutely unimaginable mere months ago. Remember, the party's only 10 years old. Now, this made even more astonishing given the fact that Germany's leftist globalists have been trying to ban the AfD from politics altogether. But obviously, there's no stopping them. And so if you can't beat them, what? You know the saying. If you can't beat them, join them. And that's exactly what the center-right ruling CDU party is doing as we speak. You see, the reason for the popularity of the AfD is simple. German voters have watched caliphate marches in Hamburg. They've watched a police officer bleed out in Mannheim. They've watched a diversity festival turn into a massacre in Solingen. And they decided this firewall against the AfD mattered less than their own safety. And what's so interesting is that their chancellor, Friedrich Merz, he already felt this pressure to adopt the AfD's strict border control measures even before he took office. So back in January 2025, he actually broke a decades-old taboo to never ever work with the so-called far right. Well, he broke that taboo and let his immigration bill pass the Bundestag, that's Germany's parliament, using AfD votes. He coalitioned with the AfD. He did the unthinkable. It was the first time since the founding of the Federal Republic that a mainstream chancellor in waiting leaned on the so-called far right to get something done. By the way, the far right is just simply what Elon Musk calls the normal people, right? So Friedrich Merz insisted over and over that he'd never ever form a coalition with them. But the votes still counted, and they only counted because the AfD was standing exactly where Merz needed them. That's the mechanism you need to understand. The AfD doesn't need to actually win an election outright to reshape Germany, though they are poised to do just that. It just needs to be big enough and threatening enough to the CDU's own survival that Merz has no choice but to steal its playbook to stay alive. Every mosque ban, every imam reform, every hardened deportation rule you just heard about, the CDU didn't discover a spine on its own. It discovered a spine because the alternative was watching Alice Fidel's party swallow its base whole. So here's where that leaves Europe. Germany just proved something the rest of the continent insisted was impossible. A liberal democracy, often apologetic, often apoplectic, they can dismantle organized political Islam legally and methodically. But it also proves something else, something nobody in Brussels wanted to say out loud. That crackdown didn't happen because German elites suddenly grew a conscience. It happened because a party they spent 10 years trying to bury just became the single most powerful political force in the country. And the CDU had absolutely no choice but to start borrowing its answers just to survive the next election. The mosque bans are the headline, but the AfD's rise is the real story underneath the story. And that's the one that Europe will actually be watching.